Just a rebel with a lightsaber dream. Lost my hand, lost my friend, lost my self-esteem.
Over the last year, both myself and Star Wars Nerd, who's also the host of the Tales of Peridia podcast, have been vocal in our own unique ways about the show The Acolyte. Our consensus was clear, though. The show should not be renewed. But now, as The Acolyte marks its first anniversary, we've decided to give it a fresh look.
What?
Rewatching the series away from outside biases and taking notes on how we truly feel about each episode. For this rewatch series that we're doing, we are solely focusing on the show itself. We are not considering PR interviews, press tours, or public statements made by Leslie Headland or any of the actors or actresses.
How can you do this? This is outrageous. It's unfair.
Whatever opinions were shared during those settings are not playing into our reviews. Our review is solely focused on the show. Throughout this series, you'll notice that Nerd and myself will sometimes disagree on the show, on characters, and on their development. If you see clips of the show, remember, I do not speak for Nerd, and Nerd does not speak for me. We're doing this together because even though we disagree on Star Wars at times, we have a mutual respect for each other. We don't discredit each other's opinions or resort to name calling. Instead, we're both willing to ask one simple question, and that question is, why? That question helps us understand our unique perspectives on Star Wars even when we don't see eye to eye. The main reason I wanted to do this rewatch series, and Nerd got into it as well, is because we believe that movie and show reviewers should approach their reviews the way the Michelin Guide reviewers approach restaurants, by experiencing something more than once with time in between. This method helps paint a much clearer and more honest picture. Just like Michelin reviewers don't base their ratings on a single visit, I think reviewers should give a show or movie at least 2 viewings, spaced apart before forming a formal opinion. The second watch will often reveal new details, references, or emotional beats that might have been missed the first time. Taking this approach leads to a more thoughtful and balanced review and ultimately gives everyone a better understanding of what the show really is about. So join us as we revisit The Acolyte 1 year later, not to rehash old arguments, but to seek a deeper understanding of this show and each other's viewpoints. And if you enjoy this series, I highly recommend supporting both of our channels. Subscribe to Clone Force 97 on YouTube, subscribe to @StarWarsNerd00 and Tales of Peridia on YouTube. And also, do not forget to turn on notifications so you do not miss future episodes of this Acolyte rewatch series. And drop your thoughts in the comments whether you agree, disagree, or you've noticed something that we might have missed. Your support will help us grow and help keep these conversations going. And with that being said, Star Wars Nerd, we can get into episode 1.
This is where the fun begins.
I'm looking, I can't say I'm looking forward to it, but, I am looking forward to, getting a better understanding of why things happen in this show, I guess. Because you are, the king of justifications, even though, I'll hear you out and I might not agree with them, but you make a lot more sense than some of these people that are making the show.
Yeah. Honestly, I think, the more, you and I have conversed and, interacted on different things, and I've gotten to talk to people who have perspectives different than myself, I think my media literacy has increased overall to where it gives me the ability to notice things I might not have noticed before, and I take the meanings deeper. Because even if a show's bad, I've been very hesitant to rewatch this show personally. Even if it's bad, I'm just looking for answers. There's a lot of holes, I think, that I had the first time. As we go through, some of those will not be explained. I'll get the biggest one out there right now. The rock burning, that's not going to have a justification. That's just a Star Wars thing. Just like fires existing in space and Leia force pulling herself into a ship. Those are just things that are unique to Star Wars. So yeah, stone can burn. I think that's one of those ones that, personally, for me, I don't really need to nitpick anymore, because I think if you're focusing on the stone burning, I think you're kind of looking too deep at everything and you're not experiencing the greater show. So I think that's like the big one. But for me, it's just kind of been finding answers here. And specifically for this episode, like, because we're doing episodes 1 today, my thoughts haven't changed a year later. As we get deeper, stuff will change. I'll find more answers. I honestly think that these first 2 episodes were just pretty cut and dry. There wasn't anything really missing, but they also like weren't the best in my opinion. They were okay pilot episodes.
I mean, it's all right. Like,
to get us started into a series that I didn't know was coming out at the time. There's a bunch of creators I've seen that's like, oh, I've thrown my support behind the Acolyte. Like, I was super excited for this project coming out. I didn't know this project was coming out until I saw the first Disney Plus trailer on TV. So I had no expectations. I had no understanding what we were getting. And what I thought we were getting after watching episode 1 was not what we were getting. I thought that this was going to be like Moon Knight or like Split, where like Osha would have this like inner demon that she can't control or something like that, and like would go off and kill people and then not understand that she's doing it. And that got put to rest like right away.
Yeah, my first watch and this rewatch, I knew the show was coming out, but I like didn't know much about it other than it was a Sith-centered show. That's all I knew. Then I saw the trailer and came out with a bunch of, theories that could have potentially worked, but then, the show came out and it just didn't live up to the expectation. And, in my opinion, like on the first watch, it was just, complete dog shit. Like, it just should not have existed. I didn't understand how it got past the writing table, I guess you want to say.
Yeah.
And this second watch, kind of going in with a clear mind. I'm going in with that same mindset of I haven't seen it. I know barely anything about it. And after watching the first 2, my opinion really hasn't changed. Like when I first reviewed it, I was like, I mean, it's all right. It's not good, but it's not like I'm gonna turn my TV off. It's like I agree with you. I thought we were gonna get the Split, or like it's actually Osha committing these crimes, like going around killing the Jedi, and she just either doesn't know or she's just really good at manipulating and lying to people. But like you said, they put that to rest, and I think they kind of took away from the story that they wanted to tell, because I also remember like after the trailer drop, people were saying like, oh, it's a Jedi hunt. It's like a Jedi murder hunt mystery type deal. It's solved within the first 20 minutes of this show.
Yeah, because the show immediately kicks off on Ueda, and May, as we find out who it is, May's trying to find Indara, and we don't learn any of why this is happening in this episode. It kicks off. She kind of bribes that one character in the beginning to try to find the Jedi, because this period, from what I know of the High Republic, I mean, I haven't finished the last book yet, but the High Republic is a time of prosperity for the Jedi. The Jedi are really at their strongest, and they're really entwined with the galaxy. So wherever there is a planet, there usually is an outpost. Like you and I were making fun of the Living Force, where they're closing outposts and Kiadi-Mundi's eating ice mounds and stuff like that. But this is a time where the Jedi are really known, and they're able to be seen and they're heard from, compared to what we see like during the prequels and what leads to their inevitable demise. So the fact that she goes up to this character and goes, "Where's your Jedi?" That's not really uncommon, but we don't really know what that's about. And then it was kind of cringy, like the way that she does it. Indara is like sitting off to the side glancing her for some reason. And May's like, "Attack me." And we're like, what's happening here? She pulls the blades, and then eventually like this brawl kicks off, because I think May attacks one of the people sitting with Indara. And then this greater fight takes place. And then while this fight's happening, I'm still confused on what's going on. Like, why is May doing this? Why is there this conflict? But even though I'm confused, I'm not like off put or anything like that. I think what she's doing with the throwing knives and everything, like, it's an engaging little battle, but the word little definitely takes precedence, because it doesn't last long and we don't get enough substance to understand what's even going on, in my opinion. Like, why is this happening? And I know people attacked Jedi at times for less, but like you usually get a more substantial fight that usually has some meaning, or even as they get more heated into the battle, somebody will expose what happened. Somebody will recognize someone and then it'll all become clear, which kind of happens here, but there's usually more dialogue to it. I don't think we got that. We just immediately were thrown into a fight scene in a bar on Ueda.
Yeah, I put in my notes here, like the first shot we get obviously is like the outside of the bar and our villain. And I like to make jokes when I'm doing my reviews. So I put like, we get our villain in a COVID mask, and I glazed the costume department, specifically, I think her name's Jessica Bryan. I got her name later on in my notes, but the costumes are really good in this show. Like, even I might have my issues and gripes with it and absolutely despise some of the storyline that they choose to do. The Jedi outfits are great. May's outfit's great. I mean, little questionable about like the civilian robes that Osha wears later on in the episodes, but other than that, the costumes are pretty good in here.
Yeah. I think the design overall is really good for the show. Even walking into the bar on Ueda. I have it here in my notes. I said the choreography feels off, and her sitting sideways as May walks in just shows how arrogant the Jedi are becoming, in my opinion. Like I said here, that like the fight that they're going to have feels unique because Indara is going to have the upper hand for almost all of it. And like I like when she does that run up the railing, you can tell
Yeah.
that Indara is a really strong Jedi. And I don't think that her actress did anything wrong in acting it. If anything, maybe like a little more emotion. Her character does feel very smug, but also we get the justification on that later in the show on why she is the way that she is. But I needed this fight to be longer. Like I needed to understand Indara more, where like it just kind of feels clunky.
Yeah. See, I mean, I know it's Carrie Ann Moss as Indara, but I really have never seen her in anything,
Me
if I'm gonna be
either.
honest with you.
What?
So I can't really judge her acting, but I agree. There could have been more emotion. Put in my notes here. Clearly, there's a past between Indara and her attacker, especially once we get that shot of the weird marking on the attacker's forehead, and Indara goes, "You? What are you doing here?" It kind of makes me ask, wouldn't she have felt the presence of her attacker since they had history? And I could see it playing into the Jedi are getting arrogant, and even the Plagueis novel pushes the Jedi's ability to use the Force has been diminished for a long time. But you get you, what are you doing here? There should definitely be some more like of an emotional weight of like, okay, well, what's going on? Why are you fighting? And then we just get nothing, and then we get the lamest death I think in all of Star Wars. And freaking Luke overdosing on the Force.
See, that actually leads into what I have about the death, like the justification. Like I have here, I said, I'm assuming it's noticing May's mark, which draws her attention and ruins her inner balance and really kind of throws her off because it's hitting her all at once that this character that they thought was dead, and now that they feel that they've left for dead, has now come back on this other planet so many years later. And I have it here that that could be the reason why she's unable to sense the second blade. So May throws the blade at the bartender to try to, because she knows that the Jedi's main goal is to save people. So she's going to throw the blade and then she's going to follow up with the second one. Now, the way Indara and Carrie Ann Moss portrays this character with like this kind of blatant arrogance, it doesn't really portray the shock the way that I would have wanted it to, because I think if she was actually shocked the way that she was supposed to be, then you get that justification of why she doesn't notice the second blade. Because what she's going to be feeling in that moment is like, I don't know if grief's the right word, but she's going to feel remorse because she's going to be like, you've survived. And like, and then it's going to be spinning in her head.
Kind of
Like,
like
all, go ahead.
kind of like Kenobi when he found out Anakin survived. You know, like he was absolutely like shocked and
Yeah.
kind of terrified.
Yeah. So I think she should have been able to sense that. And I mean, definitely because like the Jedi of this period are supposed to be, they are waning down. They're not as as good of the Jedi that like I talked to you about in the novels, because this is about 150 150 years. It's either 100 or 150 years later. So time has gone by, and now that we don't know, or I'm assuming they've extinguished their main conflict. Like I said, I still have one more book left to read now in the High Republic Initiative, and then they have a comic book coming out in July. So I don't know if they defeat their threat in the books or not as of recording this, but this should be a time of really like peace for at least a century, in my opinion. So they have a lot of training. They've been doing a lot of different things, and the way that they've trained has been different since their interaction with the Nihil. So I think that they should be more in tune with the Force, and she should be able to sense that. Now, May has been training with somebody who is of the dark side in some way. I don't think that this person is a Sith Lord or a Sith in either way. That's been my opinion since the beginning. So maybe she learns how to cut herself off from the Force, because I mean the Jedi never recognize Palpatine until it's too late. So I mean maybe she finds a way to cut herself off. Plus this character who is Force sensitive in May was never trained to be a Jedi. I mean, it was thought that she was left for dead. So that could lead into why it is. I just needed the acting to be a little better so that I could have this overall justification of, I know why Indara dies. And the reason she dies is because all these emotions are hitting her at once of what happened 16 years ago. But it just happened so quickly. And then May just leaves. Like there's nothing left. And then we're immediately taken onto a Trade Federation ship to visit Osha. And then I was like, oh my God, like how did she get, like on my initial watch through, I was like, oh my God, how did she get here? Like how did she get here so quickly? Because I had this thought that like, oh, they're the same person at this point. This time I know they're different. So it's like, okay, what's kind of going on? But I do like the throwback to the Trade Federation and like prequel characters in this, because it is like in that weird flux point of the two. Like it's between the High Republic of like the major events of the books and the major events of the prequel series. So I like seeing the Trade Federation show up.
Yeah, I like seeing the Trade Federation. I kind of wish that, that they had their traditional accents, but, I know the world can't handle stuff like that nowadays, but that's
Yeah.
just a small little nitpick. And I mean, I know not every Nemoidian is going to talk like Newt Gunray and the rest of the Trade Federation did in the prequels. I mean,
Yep.
Nemoidia is a big ass fucking planet. I'm sure there's different regions, like, I mean, we got Space France in Andor.
Yeah.
So, I
And just
mean,
the same thing with like Yoda and Yaddle. Yaddle does not speak like Yoda.
yeah.
So there's
I'm pretty sure
differences.
Yoda just talks like that to fuck with people.
Yeah. He got stuck like that by accident. Like he was like, you know what? People aren't listening, so I'm gonna start doing this. And then one day he couldn't stop. So that'd be funny.
But I do want to talk about like the dagger stuff real quick. I mean,
Yeah.
it bothers me that this small, like I put in my notes here, the attacker notices the bartender gets up and throws a dagger at them, causing Indara to obviously protect them. And then she gets stabbed by a dagger herself. But I'm sure she's fine, right? Lightsaber stabs don't kill anyone, so a metal dagger will be okay, right? She's dead. All right. And it kind of it bothers me because, like, I don't know, death is kind of like really inconsistent in Star Wars. And I guess you can kind of chalk that up to George bringing Darth Maul back, because then all of a sudden, like, now we can have everybody come back. And
Yeah.
I don't
With
know,
enough
when you go
hatred.
from seeing lightsabers kill people to not killing them to fucking metal killing people, it's like, all right, I don't know if I'm like nitpicking here, but that's just like, it's just very inconsistent with like what can kill you in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah. I think that is, I mean, from my opinion, is a little more nitpicky, because like, and I don't disagree with you, but like we actually get upset that somebody dies from something that should actually kill them. Like she took that dagger to the heart. But because we've seen a literal character get chopped in half and then his anger keep him alive for multiple years until he can get like robotic legs and have his mind reset by the death of, like, by the witches of Dathomir, like it makes everything less. And like we could compare it to other things. Like we could compare it to the Kenobi show, but I think it is I think it is good to actually draw the comparison to actually something George did, because there are a lot of people in the community who will be like, oh my God, like Disney isn't doing what George did. But like George did it himself too. Like George made lightsabers less volatile as well. So it was just like, for him, it was like Qui-Gon needs to die because I need the story to continue. So he has to die. But then anything after that, lightsabers are kind of up in the air on how potent they could be. Because, like, I don't know, we see all these different interactions that happen, and like sometimes people die, and then sometimes people are more wounded than they should be, and it's like, or sometimes they aren't wounded enough.
Anakin
And
gets his whole arm chopped off in episode 2, but Kenobi
yeah,
gets a little scrape on his elbow and his knee.
yeah, like everything's different. And then like, I mean, you have Anakin almost spontaneously combust in Revenge of the Sith. Like it's like, oh, it's a lava planet. He's not really like in the lava, but for some reason like he's going to spontaneously combust. And I was like, even that was kind of strange. Is like what's happening here. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of, because Revenge of the Sith really pushed the boundaries for Star Wars and like what death was, because George originally was like, this is a kid, like this is for kids, like even though like it's live action and it has these other elements in it, like it's for kids. And um we've talked about this before, like kids back in the 70s and 80s, like death wasn't something they were experiencing all the time. Like there were tragedies, like what you and I have grown up with, of like and I luckily didn't have to do many of them, but like active shooter drills um or stuff like that. Like we've learned about like Columbine was, as like I was like an infant when that happened, but then like you got Sandy Hook, and then you have the Pulse nightclub, and you have all these different things. Like kids nowadays are desensitized to death. So Star Wars has kind of evolved with that, and Revenge of the Sith was the first one to really like push those bounds, where like even though Anakin doesn't die, like I mean, we've never seen somebody get that messed up before. And it's kind of evolved since then, where we do get people dying now. And it's because kids are now desensitized to death.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I mean, you're kind of right. George did, like, lightsabers have been all over the place since fucking day one.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It probably is like a nitpick because I shouldn't be upset that a dagger to the heart killed a human being, because that most definitely would happen. But, like, I don't know. I don't want to drag it
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
I'm just going to fucking beat a dead horse.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if the acting was a little better with her shock of like being like, how are you here? Like, then you understand why she misses the second dagger. I think the issue isn't in the dagger killing her, it's what led to her not noticing the second one. Because, like, obviously, us, the audience, like, we see May have a dagger behind her back, because, like, every villain has something up their sleeve. And but for some reason, like the way it was acted by Carrie Ann Moss, and like I said, there's an article out recently about like what she said, but I haven't read it, because I really, a lot of the comments that have happened afterwards or before, like I do think influenced a lot of people's opinions on it. So like I don't really care what like Amanda Lestenberg says about anything, or Leslie Headland, like, and that's how I was initially watching it. I've seen a lot of that stuff now, but like with those interviews that they do, like they're never going to tell you how they actually feel. They're just not going to, because they're PR trained people. So, and I think that's why they make mistakes in these interviews, is because they are trying to fit a certain script, which is why like I've really like left that out. So yeah, if it's nitpicking, I guess, but that's part of the reviews, like is actually nitpicking what you're watching. But I do think that the acting could have been a little better for that specific scene, and then it would have left us more satisfied. And
Yeah.
then, because honestly, like that could have just, had they done it right, or had they done it to the way I was thinking about it, that could have just been the first episode. Like, but instead, that was only part one of what is three different parts of this thing, because now, like, we're on the Trade Federation ship, and like you're with OSHA, and OSHA's working as a mechanic, which is that was pretty interesting to see, honestly, because the R2 droids are relatively new to this period at that time. So like the droids are supposed to be doing all the work to the ships, like we see R2 do a lot later, and like R4 and stuff. But because of how much these shiny new droids are costing, they result to humans who can kind of do things a little bit more. But then we see like OSHA makes a mistake, and then there's an explosion because they're not reading the stuff correctly. Where I don't know, we've seen droids make mistakes, but they don't usually make those ones that they just made. But it is cheaper help. Um, and if they die, they die. It's not like they can get some other human or some other person to redo it for relatively cheap who's down on their luck, compared to like if they lose that droid, they have to go buy another one, and the droids are very expensive. So
Yeah.
which I like I said, I think all that was really cool to see. I don't know what your thoughts about that was, like seeing OSHA and them as mechanics for the ship.
See, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't know that there was a point in time where like humans did the repairs on the ship. You know, I figured like they always had droids doing them. So I think that's pretty cool. And I put here in my notes, I said, I know I'm trying to review this as if I've never seen it before, but let's talk about the fire in space. Honestly, who fucking cares? The Phantom Menace fucking had it. And George had sound in space. Those seismic charges that everybody loves shouldn't fucking happen in episode 2. Like, there should be no fucking sound. But there's sound in George Lucas's space. So there's fire in fucking Star Wars space.
Yeah.
What does it matter?
That was that same justification I used for the fire on Brendock that we'll see later. Like, it's just one of those things that, like, if you really care enough, if that's what you're into, then you're watching too hard at that point. I applaud your literacy in reading it and knowing that, hey, rock doesn't catch on fire. But like, it's just one of those things that, like, there's a lot of stuff in Star Wars. We have yet to be able to recreate a lightsaber. Like, there's one company out there who's kind of gotten close, but like their lightsabers don't interact the same way. So like, at the end of the day, there's fictional stuff. This is not a historically accurate show. This is a spaghetti western in space. Like, this is fiction. So some of that stuff doesn't matter. Like, why is the rock on fire? It's like, well, why are there Namordians? Like, I've never seen a Namordian in person, but like, it just is what it is. So like, just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't happen in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, I mean, like, I understand, like, it could be a nitpick, and like, I nitpick a shit ton of things, bro. Like, literally, like, every reason I have for like my hatred towards Kenobi, it's all nitpicks. Literal fucking nitpicks. Like, and like, honestly, I didn't even know that there was a like fire in the episode until I had to go back and rewatch it for a review for Tales from Peridia. And even then, I said the Phantom Menace has fire in space that R2 puts out. So what is everybody freaking out about?
You know what's funny? This will be the second show that I've watched the second time, because I watched Andor for a rewatch series. But the first time I didn't even really watch it. I was like, oh, I'll just put it on while I'm doing dishes and completely not understand what's happening because I'm not actually watching it. So
dude, that was me until I've been rewatching it lately.
Yeah.
I'll save that for another video, but I'll spoil a little bit. It's not as bad as I once said. I'll just put it at that.
Yeah, you have to find this balance of paying a lot of attention while also not overstepping that with a lot of these shows. Because, like I said, if you're focusing on fires in space or rocks catching on fire or the Andor one, bricks and screws, you're doing too much and you gotta calm down. I think that's what that is for me anyway. Like, oh God, like, why are there bricks and screws? And it's like, how is anything held together? Is it just all held together by the Force? Like, there's some kind of screw. But then this scene with OSHA, like right before she goes out and fixes the ship, like she wakes up in kind of like that hurried panic. And I was like, oh my God, it's like Moon Knight. Like, I literally have it here. Her waking up in a panic is her not remembering what happens, kind of like Split or Moon Knight. and Osha is haunted by the flames due to some trauma in her past. I found all of this stuff to be good enough. Like, it's not out of this world. I think, like, my overall consensus on like these first 2 episodes is that they're just good enough to get you started in the series. They're not going to do anything that blows your mind away, because had they wanted to blow my mind away, that fight scene would have lasted longer. But it's good enough. I remember being harder on this show the first time I watched it, kind of like when we did that Andor watch party where I'm like, what did I watch? But I've definitely softened it, especially as I've contributed to like my media literacy growing. I think this episode overall, like, it's like a 6 is what I'm gonna give it, because 5 is like, that's mid. That's exactly what we should have gotten, with no more, no less. I think 6 is just a little bit better than that for me. And then for me as a High Republic reader, like, as that fire's happening and stuff, we see the Jedi show up, but they show up in a Jedi Vector. And a Vector is an amazing ship from the books where it's actually like controlled and powered by the lightsaber. Like, they put their lightsaber like in this little dock, and that's what causes the blasters and stuff for the High Republic. I think they're the most badass ships ever, but they weren't thought about back then. They were thought about for this publishing initiative, and it might have drew inspiration on something that George or somebody did in the past. Like, it might not come out of left field, like we find out with some of the stuff in this show. Like, we'll meet some characters in this show that draw on inspiration from stuff from Legends, or characters not officially created by George at the time. But I thought the Jedi Vector showing up, and then everybody's favorite asshole Yord coming in, and just kind of ruining the mood. I don't I don't know how you felt about seeing him for the first time, but he gives off that big brother energy, and I'm just like, we're scrapping. Like, it's on site.
Yeah, he reminded me of Obi-Wan when I first watched it, and that was kind of like my justification for like why he's an asshole, because like Obi-Wan was like, I'm gonna follow everything the fucking Jedi Council tells me, and that's exactly how Yord seems. But this second
Yeah.
watch, I'm like, dude, Yord, you're just a fucking asshole, bro. Like you really are just an ass.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
fuck
showing
off.
off. He's a teacher's pet.
Yeah, but it's crazy
Yeah.
because like he argues with Soul when they like meet up with Osha, and they're gonna go to Olega whenever May attacks
Torben.
Torben in episode 2. He argues like, well, we shouldn't be bringing Osha, like we need to go to Coruscant. And then he's like, Soul's like, the Jedi told us to go bring her,
Yeah.
and
And well,
he's like,
he's
but
like,
we still shouldn't do it.
did he kind of like demeans her in a way, because he's like, we shouldn't bring Osha. He's like, we shouldn't bring the civilian. He constantly refers to um like, I don't know, I guess you can relate it to like Harry Potter, where like, some of the wizards feel like they're above everyone else, and he's like, we can't bring the civilian with us. And it's like, dude, that's Osha. She trained at the temple, you idiot.
Yeah,
Like,
like
she
that.
just didn't continue her training.
That's literally like Soul's justification to him. Like every time he's like, Osha has trained with us. Like whenever they
Yeah.
go to interrogate Chimere and she gives them the blaster, he's like, "Hey, that just broke a bunch of codes and rules and regulations." He's like, she knows how to do it, bud. She's been trained to use these.
Yeah. None of this stuff here was like super memorable, but like, they immediately like match motive because somebody matching her description killed Indara, and then they bring the bartender. Like, they hauled this bartender like across the galaxy, maybe? Like, hold on, wait, come with us. And he's like, it's her. And it's like, bro, don't you have a bar to like clean up and run? Like, you got a business. Like, I don't know how far this ship was away, but they were like, hold on,
Bro,
we
he's
don't
got
know.
a kid. Like they
Yeah.
literally show him with a kid.
Yeah, yeah, but they were like, no, we're just gonna take him. And then it's like, yeah, it was her. So then they arrest her. And then in like this weird idiotic thing, Yord doesn't take her in. Like, Yord and his Padawan don't take her in. They just put her on a prison ship and leave. Like, hopefully with that guy that they just carried all the way across the galaxy. Like, hold on, we have to go drop this guy off. So we're gonna put her on the prison ship.
That's
And
probably
then
why they weren't on the ship.
so it's like, okay, like, we're not gonna bring her to Coruscant ourselves, even though we need to, because we accidentally like took this guy from his home. But that's just nitpicking. It's just kind of like, this is the first time I thought about it and was like, that's actually kind of funny that they dragged this guy across the galaxy. Obviously there's no surveillance or anything. It's like they can only go off of like what this guy has. We're not putting out a sketch. There's no sketch artist. Like, we're just gonna drag this guy around until we find somebody that matches the description. And there just happened to be like, oh yeah, we know of a Jedi that used to train with us that matches this description. And it's like, and obviously, like, the reason why they know is because Endara put out like that thing, like, we have an undisclosed Force user or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, they don't really know a whole lot. But yeah, so like, they got to return that guy, and then we're at like the third arc, because that's how I kind of viewed this episode. Is that the first arc is the fight in the bar, the second arc is this like brief conversation on the Trade Federation ship, and then, which was kind of meaningless, it was just to have her arrested, and then now we're on the prison ship, and like, we're starting to notice like in the background of this, Vernestra's arguing with politicians, and like, we're starting to notice that the Jedi are starting to have their issues like with politics, because like before that they really don't get involved. Like, even in the books, they work hand in hand with the Chancellor, but like, anytime that the Jedi feel like the Chancellor isn't doing the right thing, and not saying like that she's a bad person in the books, but whenever they disagree with her, they just go off and do what they think is right. But like, as we see here, and as we'll see in the prequels, the Jedi become more and more entwined in politics, to where like they need people to vote whether they should be used or not, and it's kind of interesting. And I even have it here in my notes, like that argument. I said this time is after the High Republic novels, and it's going to show the path to the prequels. And then so you see like that little argument, and then like she's talking to Soul about like what's gone on there, and then about the prison ship, I guess. Like I said, this episode wasn't very memorable, but they learned about the prison ship. The escape pods jettison from that craft, and we don't really see much else. That's how the Jedi know that Osha's like escaped or whatever. So like, that's why they're notifying Soul, and like now they're doing everything discreetly because they care about what politicians think. I don't know if you have anything like in your notes about this specifically. Episode 1, I didn't find like super memorable to jot down a lot of notes. It was kind of self-explanatory, other than if you hadn't watched it before, the Osha May connection.
No, really, my notes for episode 1 and 2, like, they pretty
Very
much just
short.
said like they didn't rope me in, but they didn't make me want to turn them off either, you know?
Yeah.
It was like I wasn't really intrigued, but there was some things that it was like, okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think the only thing that I really have here about the ship crashing and the way that everything kind of went down with that prison escape, because they tried to get her in on it, and then she was like, no, and then they immediately broke out. Like, I was like, I don't know how they did it so quickly, but they took over that thing super fast. And I mean, we don't know how long they were on there or how much time they've had to set that up. But then like, Osha loses Pip, which like, Pip is a very important character in this show, in my opinion. And she can't like, she struggles like to force pull him like back, and it's like, you've gone through all this training before you left the Jedi Temple. I'm assuming she would have learned how to force pull something, but there's also so much stuff going on around her, and I think it's been 6 years since she's trained. So like, I understand why she wasn't able to do it, but I was like, that's really weird that you couldn't grab him in your time of need, and like, you got caught. And then like, she knows that this very violent criminal is being like subdued by like this Dubek or whatever the heck the thing's called.
Yeah.
But the good that's in her wouldn't leave this guy to die. And as soon as she rips his thing off, the guy, I don't know like if the stasis, if he's hearing what's going on, but he can't do anything because that thing is just stopping him and keeps him in stasis. But how does he know just immediately to get up and start running? So how does that guy know just like, oh yeah, she freed me from this thing, I'm just gonna like scream and run to the escape pod and then be like, bye. I was like, that's just kind of funny and like idiotic. Like, it really like blows back in her face.
I guess like all that starfish thing really does is just sedates him. But like they said, like it just messes with his mind. So I'm assuming like he can hear, but he just can't do anything.
Yeah, that was like, he just got up and ran and then immediately leaves her, which he's important because they wouldn't know that she survived without that, because Soul like comes in and like settles his mind, and he's like, "Tell me what you know," and then he's like, "I took the last escape pod and left her to die." So she crashes on like that snow planet of Karlak, and then she's immediately. This is where they spoil it, like where that entire hope of it being one person doing two different things and a split personality. Like this is where it was ruined for me. It's because like she goes down with the ship on Karlak, and then she wakes up and she has this force vision about May. And then you get the like they're saying like always one but born as two or whatever. Like you get
I
their little
didn't
saying.
write it down, but it's like,
Yeah, like I give you me and you
yeah,
give me
I give
you.
you you, you
Yeah.
give me some
Yeah.
stupid. I don't know. There's so many fucking stupid chants in this show. Like I can't keep up with them. It's
Yeah.
stupid.
I think that chant is the least agitating of the ones that we hear in this show. But so you hear that one, it's like always one, but born as two, and
I
but then
did
she goes off and
notice.
chases her.
I did notice, like on this second rewatch, even though like I tried to watch it like as it's my first time, I couldn't help but notice like the foreshadowing that shit is of them being like one conscious split into two beings. Like I
Yeah,
really never put two and two together with that until they said it. I was like, holy shit. Not saying
I
it's
didn't.
good, but
I didn't put it together until right now when you said it. So, and then I remember when you messaged me, you were like, "Hey, she does the eye thing," and I was like, who does she take over? And then like, because I thought she did that to the person on Ueda, but then you were like, no, like her eyes turn black, like Mother Anastaea's. And then I was like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about for that. And I was like, yeah, I didn't really like that didn't really ring a bell either. And then like, but then when I thought about it, I was like, maybe like there was like a little bit of her, like maybe before she was found by Chimera or whatever, that like she trains as a witch, which I think would be cool. We never got to see if that was a thing, like because she took that oath. Like that's why she has the mark, is she took the oath of the coven. But we don't know what she trains as because, well, we know that she trains as a kind of dark side user without a lightsaber.
yeah.
But we
I
don't know if she's tried to learn any of the witch abilities, like whatever Anastasia does to Torben.
See, I think that I mean we see everybody die obviously later on in the series. And we see their bodies, but we don't see the body of the Zabrak witch.
Yeah, Mother Coral.
Yeah, Coral, that's her fucking name.
That was everybody's guess of who the stranger was, and I was like, no. Like, immediately, no. I was
No,
like,
I think
it
Coral
was,
just trained her and like she's obviously survived. And I don't I mean, I know I'm jumping to episode 3, I think it is, when like May fucking falls and somehow respawns in front of that fucking tree. But I think, Coral takes her from there and trains her for a little bit. And then she's got issues with Coral.
yeah, we never know what happens to her unless we didn't pause it long enough to find her body. But I mean, dude, this show wouldn't exist without Soul or Coral because like Soul is way too attached to be a Jedi, and Coral is an asshole. Like if Yord's an asshole, Coral's an asshole, and like she's like, I don't know if it's in the Zabrak nature to be like that aggressive, but like I mean, obviously these witches have gone through a lot. Like they've neared extinction. They've had to move planets. They kind of gone off on their own. But like I know why they would be aggressive, but like even every time Mother Anastasia like is like, hey, stand down, like Coral's like, I'll cut your tongue out of your mouth or whatever. And like, oh, calm down. You can kind of see it in the two characters. Like Osha is a lot like Mother Anastasia, and May is very much like Coral, and like
Yeah, I
super
mean, like
aggressive and
I know I'm jumping to
agitated.
episode 3, but like when you see them as kids, like May is fucking
Yeah,
ruthless. I mean, for fuck's sake, I don't want to be a witch. You can't make me. Well, then I'll just fucking burn the whole house down and kill you with it. Like Jesus Christ.
yeah, or like you see that little butterfly creature, and like
Yeah.
May's first instinct is like, hey, we should torture this fucking thing. Which, like, I mean, kids do that stuff. Like, I remember, like we'd see a worm, and the first thing would be like, I heard it could live if you cut it in half. And then like, so then we'd immediately cut it in half.
What?
Sorry, PETA. So that would happen, but like it's like one of those things. Like, oh, what will happen? And then like, so May is just immediately like, oh, butterfly, torture it, and then we get the butterfly effect. Everything goes to shit afterwards. To bring it back to episode 1, like Osha senses that her sister is alive. Like she's like immediately come to terms with it and like recognizes it. And then, like, I have here in my notes afterwards because they go to find Osha, like Soul, Yor, Jackie, like they're all on their way to find Osha now because she survived the crash. Like, Soul was immediately convinced. He's like, "No, I know her. She'll survive." It's like, Soul, come on, calm down. But I have it here in my notes here that Jackie is immediately the best Padawan. Like, she was probably actually my favorite character in the entire show. And it's not because she is obedient, because like Yord's very obedient, but like he's an asshole. But Jackie understands the way the world works a little bit better.
Yeah. I don't have much written down about Jackie because honestly, there's not enough character development, if that's the right term. I mean, I don't necessarily know her beginning, middle, or end for like her character arc. Like it's kind of like she just does good up until she gets 3-hole punched. But like
So
Soul, I mean, he's pretty much like what you see. Well,
is what
I
you
don't
get.
know. I think we kind of see him lose his mind a little bit as the show goes on, obviously. Because I mean, he's not nearly like as pathetic or kind of like frantic as he is after watching everybody get, sliced and diced for like 6 hours. Yord just has no character development. He's an asshole up until he gets his fucking neck snapped.
Surprise.
Yeah, you feel kind of happy when he gets his I was like, yep, it's time. Yeah. I do think that the show does fail to make you love certain characters. Now, I think watching it a second time has definitely like I really enjoy Jackie. So like I actually now have an attachment to Jackie. It's not because I've learned anything more of her character. Like from what I've watched, like they don't give us anything about like anything different of her character. I just have a better appreciation of who she is as a person.
Yeah.
Yord, I still waited for the next crunch. But like
Fucking morbid fuck.
yeah, I was like, come on, where is it? Like I'm like I had to wait like that whole episode and I was like I thought he died quicker than this, but but anyway, so the last note I have here for episode 1, this whole series focuses on a web of lies set by Soul due to his attachment of Osha and his constant need to prove himself. Because like that's really what this is all about. It's like, oh, I can go find her. Like she'll talk to me, and then like what we see in later episodes, and we'll get to those when we get to them. But it's like I've never done this thing. Well, I'm about to go do it. So like without Soul, none of this would have happened. There's stuff that we find out later, like, yeah, you could blame it on Torben, you could blame it on the witches. Soul, in my opinion, is solely responsible. That's funny. Is solely responsible for everything that happens.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I will say, like in my notes, like I talked about how like the episode ends with Smilo Ren dropping some fire lines about like an acolyte kills the dream or whatever it is that he said. Should have wrote down like what he actually said. I wrote about Jennifer Bryan. She absolutely killed it with the costume designs. Like we got 3 iterations of Jedi robes from the High Republic in one episode, and each of them were fucking amazing. It's like there was no singular type of robe. And I know George Lucas had different styles and different colors and all that, but like these really stood out to me.
I think the set design and the character designs, not the character development, but just the way the characters are designed, everything about this show is great in those aspects. Like, I love the gold and the white of the Jedi robes. I love the way that we'll see Chimera later. Like, the way that they did the costuming, the set design, and the character design of this show is amazing.
Yeah. I also
Trying
went
to
on
see
to go
what
to say that like as far as the story and the writing goes, it's honestly it's not good in my opinion. I mean, I've never written a TV show completely from scratch, so can't necessarily say that I would do it better, but I mean, it wasn't good in my opinion. Some of the acting and line delivery from the actors just really are not good at all. Like the whole, all right, Jedi, attack me with all your power. Like that's honestly like on par with they fly now. Like it's terrible.
Yeah,
Terrible.
I agree that the writing isn't the best. Now, I think one thing that's consistent in Star Wars is that none of the writing is the best.
What?
So, like, there are some times that it really pulls you out of it, and I'm trying to find that line that Chimere says to May, but I know it's like an acolyte kills the dream. And I have so much to talk about in terms of his character when we get to those points. But like, God, is he one of the best characters in Star Wars, in my opinion.
Dude, I've loved Chimera even since my first watch of the show. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't like his fucking stupid ass helmet. That's dumb as shit.
I
He would have
love
been
the
better off with just, Cortosis gauntlets and maybe shoulder pads. Or, I don't fucking know. Anything better than that fucking helmet.
I don't know. I love the helmet. I just think the issue with the helmet, like, why does everybody's voice change when they put on a helmet? Like, Vader's voice changes in the helmet because of what happened to him. Like the way that
Yeah.
he speaks, like it's like the helmet is and all that stuff is keeping him alive. That helmet is made out of cortosis and whatever that metal thing is that make it like have that creepy smile. Why does that change his voice? Why does Kylo Ren's mask change his voice? And it's like, why is this happening? And
Why?
it's made to like be this thing that anytime you put on a helmet, you mask your identity. I'm assuming that's the argument there. But like, I don't know. He doesn't sound like that when he takes it off. Like Chimere and
Yeah,
manages
not
to
at
tell.
all.
Like even at the times that he gets dark when he's talking, like he's very soft spoken and his tone is very persuasive all the time. So even like when he is like angry or whatever, like he doesn't sound like the stranger. And I think that's what I would have liked. And again, that's just nitpicking on my end.
Yeah.
But do you have any other thoughts and stuff about episode 1? I'm going to give it a 6. I think it does a little bit more than what I was expecting in terms of the set designs and stuff like that. It was a little more immersive than just getting what I expected, but also there was room for improvement.
Yeah. I wrote, I mean, aside from the line and acting delivery, the biggest thing is the reveal that Mayo's alive in the first episode kind of takes away from the Jedi murder mystery aspect of the show. But there are some moments like the Force vision Osha had with May that I never noticed, like with the whole eyes turning black. So that's like May getting into her head. I also could be reading into that way too much. And, she obviously just got into a spaceship crash, which isn't that big of a fucking stretch to survive. Because, I mean, look at Revenge of the Sith and the Invisible Hand. But honestly, they were just pretty bland and boring to me. Then, like, nothing that, like, each scene and everything that, like, advanced the plot didn't add or take away from it. I can't say that it wrote me in, but I can't say that I immediately wanted to turn it off. So I gave it like a 4 out.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's a fair rating, to be honest with you. I think anywhere between 4 and 6, because it really depends on what you're grading it as. Like, and some people will be harder than others for it. So I think anything in that range is probably accurate. But I think it was a decent pilot. I think it was a decent episode to get us started. And for me, like as somebody who's been super deeply entwined in the High Republic, I was just glad to be in this era. For me, when I did finally find out when this was set, I was like, oh, cool, this is going to be great. Now, I had completely different expectations, and I did not expect to see Vernestra Rowe. But then I realized that they needed to have a character from the books that wasn't Yoda, that wasn't Yariel Poof, that wasn't any of those characters that you would expect to be alive at this period. And it was somebody that people would get attached to from the books. And so they had to include one of the characters. So they included the Mary Allen, obviously, the one character that I mentioned who isn't like basically a human. Like Mace Windu's a human, but he's actually from a different planet. He has a whole like his whole species is force sensitive. But ultimately he's a human. So they obviously included that one. So I knew why they included her, but we'll talk about what happens with her as we go on. But it just kind of seems interesting that she's here.
Yeah.
Do you have any other final comments before we wrap up episode 1 here?
No, not really. I mean, aside from like glazing the costume department, 'cause, I mean, seriously, like
They
they
need
really
props. Yeah.
outdid themselves.
Yeah. They
Aside from the sabers, I don't know who the hell greenlit those and who the hell designed those. Bring back Roger Christian for the love of God, please. Get
yeah.
somebody. Just make them slimmer. Just make them slimmer. They don't have to be gigantic fucking Pringle cans. It's not that hard.
If you want to know more about what we're talking about, you're going to have to stay tuned for episode 5 because that is, my God, is that insane and funny, and
Well, dude,
it's
not
weird,
even that. They
and it's
give
not
you a up
consistent.
close shot of Indara's saber when she dies, and it's like the most hideous looking thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I think that was something they need to fix, and it's funny because they're not consistent on who gets the weird saber. And I think it has to go into the design and I think episode 5 is a very good episode to talk about those sabers because that will be where we get kind of the contradictions of whose sabers are thick like Pringle cans and whose sabers resemble prequel era ones. But
Yeah, and I understand it's a different era. Like, I'm not expecting to see something, something like this. But
well
more
actually
shit like I've seen in like the artwork and the comics and stuff. Like those look a lot better than what we got in live action.
well I'll tell you actually it's this period of time that gives us in canon, like in Star Wars universe, the reason why we get lightsabers like Anakin's, because the Jedi at the initial start of the High Republic, all their lightsabers had like the cross guards. They were very elegant weapons, but because of what happens during the conflict with the Nihil and how many Jedi kind of either disappear because of what the Nihil do or just flat out die, they actually start rushing Padawan training a little bit more, and that means the trip to Ilum to get a crystal and then come back and then all that stuff. It becomes a little less elegant. So the Jedi weapons of this period and the prequels, and then from pretty much there on after, all resemble kind of like this means to an end. Like you're not creating this elegant lightsaber that's going to take you time to construct with cross guards and gold hilts and everything. You need something that can get you into battle. So, of this period, that's when the lightsabers become more battle ready than elegant swords.
Okay.
At least that's what I've gotten from a couple of the mangas that I read because like they've even during this period like they've made like 4 or 5 mangas, which is interesting like how far they've gone for this initiative. Like they've written novels, they've written mangas, and they've done comic books. So from what I've read of those, like the lightsabers needed to be more battle ready at the time, and they couldn't take as long to produce. And we could even learn more about that from I forget the robot's name in Ahsoka, but he's like
Hu
been
Yang.
around forever. Yeah, Hu Yang. And we could even learn more about like that from potentially him because he's been around forever. But I think that's a good place to leave off this episode. If you've liked our interactions here regarding episode 1 of the Acolyte, leave your comments down below. If you've noticed something that we might have missed, I think we've kind of both with our unique perspectives covered a lot of the episode. But if you've noticed something that we missed or something that we left out that you think is very important, leave that down in the comments as well. And if you disagree with us, let us know and we'll entertain it. But the one thing we don't really want to entertain during this series is just people calling us either Disney shills or just saying, why are you covering this? Like, I'm not going to respond to those comments because it just shows that, like, those people have kind of closed their mind off. Then like I said in the beginning, make sure you're following Clone Force 97. Make sure you're following at Star Wars Nerd 00 and Tales of Peridia because these episodes are not just dropping on one channel, it's going to be dropping on both of our channels. So that'll also, maybe the way we edit it for each of our channels will also offer unique perspectives and like what overlays we add. That being said, we will see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.